Carney opposed pipelines in Canada while he invested in pipelines in the Middle East. He supported a carbon tax on our Canadian industry and consumers, all while his company, Brookfield, invested in American coal.
It's about getting things done. It's about getting, yes, pipelines built across this country so that we can displace imports of foreign oil. It's about building out the energy infrastructure more broadly.
I know that Mark Carney and Pierre Poilievre would want nothing better than the NDP to disappear so they can continue to give big gifts to the billionaires, to favor rich CEOs.
Welcome back to Power Play on this Thursday night. The worst kept secret in Ottawa is out, and the Liberals are set to call a snap election Sunday, with Election Day set for either April 28th or May 5th. A final decision on that is still coming. Sunday will be the formal kickoff, but the last few months have sure felt like a campaign, with seismic political events shifting the ground underneath every political party, albeit in different ways. Here to explain is the founder and chief data scientist at Nanos Research, Nick Nanos. Nick is also, of course, CTV's pollster, and we'll be seeing a lot of each other over the next number of weeks.
Quality time, Vashi.
Yeah, I'll take it. Let's start with those top line numbers, and then we'll pull up where they were a few months ago. Right now, you have the Liberals and the Conservatives neck and neck.
Absolutely. It's 35-34. And, think of it this way, Vashi. The margin of error for the survey is plus or minus 3 percentage points, and there's only 1 point between the Conservatives and the Liberals, 35-34. NDP back at 16. So not great. Okay numbers for the NDP, but not great because, the NDP has been as high as like 25%, and so not great on that front. So, the reality is that we're talking about a situation where it's a horse race.
And if the viewers right now are looking here at the comparison between December and now, it is striking and happened over most of that movement occurred once Justin Trudeau had quit and Trump was inaugurated. Yeah. Contextualize it for us. You've been doing this for a really long time. Have you seen the polls move like this?
No, we haven't seen the polls move so dramatically in a short period of time. And it's taken 3 things. Like, let's face it, Vashi, in December 2024, I think if we were to sum up what we thought the election was going to be, is kind of like the Justin Trudeau Liberal car crash. Right? And now we're back to a horse race. And, the thing is over the course of January and February, especially, what we've seen is Justin Trudeau stepping down. We saw Donald Trump unprecedentedly attack Canada, the 51st state, all that kind of stuff. The Liberals responding to that. You got the Liberal leadership of Mark Carney. I guess in a way, there's been a lot of focus on the Liberals over the last while. And it's shown in the polls in terms of them being more competitive. But Battleground Ontario, Vashi, is probably the one to watch because the Conservatives still have about a 10 percentage point lead, very efficient at converting into seats. So it's too early to tell maybe how long the horse race will last, or perhaps we'll have a new car crash.
Well, that's optimism for you. A lot of what's also transpired is with the replacement of Justin Trudeau by Mark Carney is a little less difference, actually, in the policies being put forward. There's even an example today, GST off of new homes. The Liberals say for first-time home buyers, the Conservatives don't add that caveat. There's getting rid of the carbon tax. There's making sure, talk about pipelines and getting our energy to other markets, which I think points us in the direction of a lot more focus, not just on policy, but on the people who are leading the parties, right? Yeah. What are your numbers telling us about preferred prime minister as you would characterize it?
Well, the thing is that we track preferred prime minister, every week. And what we've seen, actually, for Justin Trudeau, his numbers in the last few weeks have probably been better than they have been in quite a long time, whether you like or dislike the guy. But, what we see on the preferred prime minister front is that, for Pierre Poilievre, he had a massive advantage for the last 6 months. And now, what we have is, not just a tightening of the race when it comes to the ballot, but also a tightening when it comes to who Canadians would prefer as prime minister. But you know what, Vash, we got to wait for the election to be called because, Mark Carney's still untested. We have to call it the way it is. He's untested. He hasn't really gone toe-to-toe with Pierre Poilievre yet. And we'll have to wait till the first week or two of the campaign to see what the real strength is of both the Liberals and the real strength of the Conservatives.
You mentioned your numbers in Ontario. When we talk about the different regions and certainly the bastions of support for each of the parties and efficiency of the vote, that becomes a very important thing for everyone watching. It's like, how easily are they able to convert votes into seats? What are your seat projections looking at? I think the most recent ones we had were at the end of February.
Yeah.
Where did things stand at that point?
Well, you know, what we've seen is the seat projections. What was, I'll call it a supermajority for the Conservatives. You know, I think back in December, the first part of January, we had the Conservatives with about over 220 seats, declared wins. Fast forward now, you can see they've dropped 100 seats in 8 weeks. The Liberals have picked up about 60 of those seats, and another 40 of those seats have gone into too close to call. But, you know, when we look at regions, especially like Atlantic Canada, where the Liberals have regained support, the Liberals regaining support in Quebec, and the Liberals regaining support in British Columbia. You know, those are the three regions where the Liberals have made significant gains because of the way the vote splits have worked. And, you know, the Conservatives went from, why don't we call it an easy-peasy victory in December, early January, to a real fight. That said, you know, we still have the Conservatives with declared winning more seats than the Liberals right now, but there's still a big swath, about 80 or so seats that are too close to call.
In Ontario specifically, I have to ask, because today the Star, Rob Benzie at the Star, has this story out about how Pierre Poilievre called Doug Ford, who of course just came off a Conservative who came off a successful win in Ontario, to see if you know, he would help him out on the campaign, essentially. And the response, as reported by the Star, was, I'm very busy on the campaign trail. What kind of intersection is there between the federal Conservatives and the provincial Conservatives there? Like, what will you be watching for?
Isn't it kind of like, you know, Doug Ford getting a call and it's like, Pierre Poilievre, line one. It's like, oh. What am I going to say? I'm busy. You know, like, I could have understood that reaction before the Ontario election, because, you know, the thing is Doug Ford would not want to conflate what's happening federally with what was happening provincially. But, you know, the guy's won a big mandate, Doug Ford. He's got 4 years to kind of cruise. If he decided that he wanted to help the federal Conservatives,
could he help? Like, could he, from what you know about their numbers?
He's got organization on the ground. Like, the Ford Nation is real. Like, if Doug Ford came out and strongly endorsed any candidate, that would be very powerful. You know, in the same way when Doug Ford is having like a friendly breakfast with Mark Carney.
Or Chrystia Freeland.
Or Chrystia Freeland, it's kind of like, you know, it kind of, it takes a little that partisanship out of the equation. You know, I'm sure Pierre Poilievre would like to have breakfast with Doug Ford.
well,
and keep that in one of his ads.
I don't know that for sure. Last question for you, Nick, is on the ballot box issue, because you've done some really interesting surveys around what people are going to care about. I think anecdotally, we know we're all talking about Donald Trump and how this country positions itself. Is that what is going to most influence, at this point in time at least, Canadians' votes? Yeah,
that's going to be the overarching issue, Vashi, because underneath Donald Trump and our relationship with the United States will include, what is our strategy for jobs? What does this mean for the economy? What does this mean for the cost of living and inflation? What does this mean for the cost of housing? So think of all those economic issues kind of percolating under Donald Trump, and people wondering, wow, if we mess this up and there's a real trade war with the United States, what does this mean for my job? You know, what does this mean in terms of the strength of the economy? So expect Trump to be top of mind. He'll be, like I say, the uninvited guest of the Canadian election who will be haunting us all.
Yeah, those tariffs are supposed to come April 2nd, right smack and dab in the middle of the campaign. Nick, thank you so much. I appreciate it. That is the Chief Data Scientist and founder of Nanos Research and our pollster here at CTV, Nick Nanos.